In 2002, Congress passed America's most sweeping education law, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, or as it is more commonly known, No Child Left Behind. The law states that each state shall establish a timeline for adequate yearly progress. The timeline shall ensure that no later than 12 years after the end of the 2001-2002 school year, all students will meet or exceed the state's proficient level of academic achievement on their state assessments. But now it's 2014, 12 years later, and this ambitious goal for 100% proficiency still has not been achieved. 34 states had to request renewals, including Virginia, under which they must reform their education plan in order to meet proficiency requirements. But what is this alleged proficiency? Morgan, an education professor at the University of Southern California, calls proficiency a crude gauge of student performance. It's a particular score on a particular test. Change the test or the passing score and you change the definition of proficiency.
Standardized tests are lousy measures of anything that matters intellectually. There's such an emphasis on rigor and raising the bar and higher standards that we end up with a lot of kids who are alternately bored and anxious because the education really isn't about helping them to feel like proficient thinkers who love learning. Instead, they have to memorize facts and practice skills in order to do well on tests. And that ends up being quite unengaging, and it has a number of destructive consequences.
In an article for the Washington Post, Jesse B. Ramey lists 13 of these consequences, including lost instruction time in the classroom, narrow curriculums, school closures and diverted resources, loss of curiosity and love of learning in students, and harmful feelings of stress and internalized failure in students, just to name a few.
The focus on testing and the number of tests that students have to take nowadays and the number of tests that teachers have to administrate, huge controversy surrounding that, of course. And I think one of the interesting things about that question is that it's only about 2 decades old. You know, we didn't really see standardized tests writ large until the mid-90s, and it was a slow build, and it wasn't until No Child Left Behind during the Bush administration that we really saw regular testing of students on a regular basis. And we've seen bipartisan support of that through the Obama administration and Race to the Top. And now, in the last few years, we've started to see a crescendo of a backlash, and a lot of that is. I really
appreciated Jamie's call, and it gets to the core issue here is that we have told kids and their families that they are doing fine, that they're on track, they're on grade level, only for them to find out later that that's not true. It's too late when you're in 12th grade or you're now 18 going to the community college to be told that you don't actually have the preparation you need. And so, the hope here is if we can give that information to people much sooner. If you want to go to college, you need to be able to do some things. You need to be able, for example, to read an academic journal article and make sense of it. You need to be able to write an essay that's not just about your own feelings or your own opinions, but that draws evidence from a text that you read. You got to read great literature and make sense of it. You've got to be able to do math, at least at an Algebra 2 level, right? In all of those ways, in most states, the standards have been much lower than that, okay, because the focus has been on just getting kids to basic literacy and numeracy, but we didn't do a very good job of telling parents, hey, don't think that when your kid passes this test that means they're on grade level or that they're doing great. All it means is basically they're not illiterate or enumerate, right? So we're now trying to fix that.
We don't need to know whether a student can fill out a bubble. We do need to know whether they're making progress.
The Virginia State Legislature has taken a step in the right direction to fix this issue, a step away from standardized testing. During the 2014 session, in order to meet the terms of their renewal under No Child Left Behind, the Virginia Legislature passed a new bill, named the Standards of Learning Reform. Under the new law, starting in the 2015-2016 school year, the number of SOL tests in grades 3 through 12 will be limited to 17 specified tests in specific subjects. For each of the remaining subjects in every grade level, the teachers and local school board will have to develop alternate forms of assessment. At the signing, Virginia State Governor Terry McAuliffe said the SOL reform law is a meaningful step toward reforming the standards of learning so that we can continue to evaluate students and teachers without stifling innovation and creativity in the classroom. Our students are taking a number of tests and then taking tests to get ready for the tests. At the end of the day, they're learning to be champions at taking multiple choice bubble tests. We'd rather see some critical reasoning and cognitive thought process. But although teachers share in his sentiments, many do not agree that the reform law is a large enough step away from standardized testing.
Multiple choice testing is not the answer to evaluate a student's growth. There's too much testing, especially in the primary grades. I feel extensive testing leads to a very stressful environment for the students and the teachers. Scores don't always tell the whole story of a student's growth. Teachers can have checklists of observations, rubrics, and summaries of a student's progress. There is a big push for hands-on instruction and how it benefits the students, but we are still behind on the formality.
But again, because we've already reduced the number of tests this year in both 3rd grade and 5th grade, and our students are still being map tested, benchmark tested, yourself and push them to achieve as much as you possibly can, and growth can be shown better through a portfolio rather than a one-day test in May where the student may not be a good test taker, they may have test anxiety, or they may not be able to read the material due to performing below grade level. A portfolio would show growth of a student because you would see progress from beginning to end of year at their performance.
Tests don't define who you are because you can be really smart just not doing good on the test.
In recent years, federal and state governments have made minimal changes in testing standards, where the only way to truly better the American education system is to take a step away from standardized testing.